Okay, Shalom Aleichem everyone. After that Kvitzas Haderach, that short trip from the Ramah to the Shach, it's very noteworthy that we're going from the Ramah to the Shach. First of all, the Shach is the primary commentary on the Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah and Choshen Mishpat. Furthermore, the Shach married the son, the Shach married the daughter of the great-grandson of the Ramah. So the Shach was married to a descendant of the Ramah, and the Shach was born in 1622. The most extensive commentary on Yoreh De'ah is the Shach. Does anybody know what year Shach was written in? It was written in the year Bakodesh. Bakodesh is the year 1646. The greatest work ever written on Yoreh De'ah was written when the Shach was 24 years old. Brings the Chida, it's a davar nifla. The Shach wrote his commentary at 24 years old. The Chida further points out that if you read the Shach on Yoreh De'ah, you'll see that he had also written a commentary on the Torah and the Beis Yosef, which we don't have. And that's something he wrote even before he was 24 years old. I'm going to give you a little sampling, because we know that the Taz was published the very same year, and the Taz was much older than the Shach. And in that very same year, both of these Sfarim were published. And I'm going to give you a little sampling of a machloikes between the Taz and the Shach. So in Yoreh De'ah, the Mechaber paskins that if a shoichet shechs more than one animal, all you need to do is to make one bracha. However, if the shoichet talks and he's mafsik between shechting one animal and the next, so if he speaks about something that's connected to the shechita, he does not have to make another bracha. But if he speaks about something not related to the shechita, he would have to make another bracha. That's the De'ah Rishona. V'yesh Omrim, says Mechaber, that speaking is not a hefsik, it's not a separation, and he should not make another bracha. The Shach paskins like the first De'ah, that you always make another bracha. This is the Shach Yoreh De'ah Siman Yotes Sivkatan Zayin. The Shach paskins like the second De'ah. Comes the Taz, and the Taz says that since the Shulchan Aruch brings down both De'os, and he doesn't give any conclusive ruling, it has a din of a suffix, and we utilize the rule, suffix, brachos, lahakel. This is what the Taz says. The Shach, on the other hand, paskins like the first opinion. Now, the Shach, in his humility, wrote a commentary on the Taz called Nekudos HaKesef. And in Nekudos HaKesef, the reason why he called it Nekudos HaKesef, he wanted to show humility to the Taz, as if the Taz is Zahav, the Taz is gold, and he is merely Kasef. So he says no. He says emphatically and unequivocally, Einoi Kain. It's not a suffix, because many Paiskim follow the first De'ah, and therefore you need to make a bracha. Now this is something which is not so well known. Who do we paskin like? The Shach or the Taz? Whenever there's a machlokes, the Shach and the Taz, the Rabbanim in Poilin and Lita follow the Shach. The Rabbanim in Ashkenaz follow the Taz. But in general, Bizman Hazeh, Halach L'maisa, we usually follow the rulings of the Shach. We're headed to the Kever of the Shach, which was published in the year Bakodesh. Bakodesh. The Shach was published in the year Bakodesh 1646. So the little...
What city are we in?
Holishev. Holishev in Moravia. Sechusa Yagein Aleinu. Okay, we have to review this one more time because we're having technical difficulties. So again, it's a great zechus to be here at the Kever of the Shach on Lag BaOmer. We mentioned that the Shach wrote his commentary at 24 years old. He's called Sinsenes Haman, the jug of the man, because he provided for the Jewish people, like the Rashbi, like Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. And the Shach learnt by the Rebbe Reb Heschel of Krakow. He's also a student of the Magine Shlomo of Krakow. The Shach wrote on Yoreh De'ah. The other great commentary on Yoreh De'ah was the Taz, the Taz Rabbeinu David. The Taz Rabbeinu David was much older than the Shach. And the Sfarim were published in the very same year, in the year 1666, when the Shach was 24 years old. And against the Taz, the Shach wrote another commentary called Nekudot HaKesef. To Nekudot HaKesef, the Taz responded. The Taz responded with his own Perush against the Shach to answer the questions of the Shach, and this is called Daf HaAcharon, the last page. In response to the Daf HaAcharon, the Shach wrote Kunshras HaAcharon. Now, many people thought that the Shach, being much younger than the Taz, maybe he doesn't have the right to argue with the Taz. Maybe there's a personal animosity, a personal quarrel between them. So I want to read to you what the Shach says. He says, anyone who reads my Sefer Nekudot HaKesef should not think that I wrote these comments against the Taz because of any personal animosity. Everybody knows how fond I am of the Taz. The Shach hosted the Taz for 3 days. So you can imagine, here we are in Holishev, and the Shach hosts the Taz for 3 days. And not only that, I honored him greatly. And the Taz gave a kiss to the Shach. The Almighty knows, and God is a witness, that I wrote these comments only l'shem shamayim, only for the sake of the truth.
El Shach, él hizo un libro, el Taz en su momento, Rabbeinu David, era un Taz que era un posecto de edad mucho más grande que el Shach. El Shach hizo un comentario, un libro para argumentar a veces, y se puede decir que un poco discutir con el Taz. Aunque era muy joven, él hizo un pirush en 1667 para hablar el Taz. Ese libro se llamaba el Nekudot HaKesef, que ahí él explica y ahí habla con profundidad lo que él hizo. Sobre ese libro les contestó después, cuando lo vio el Taz, contestó los argumentos hacia el Shach, y después volvió a escribir el Shach otra vez el Kuntre Saharón, donde vuelve a refutar otra vez. La gente pensaría que entre ellos no había una buena cordura, pero que sepan que aquí en Holishev, donde estamos, aquí también estuvo el Taz y lo recibió el Shach por 3 días. Aquí vino el Taz a venir a visitar al Shach. Estuvieron juntos 3 días. Dice que hicieron mucho, se besaron y se respetaron mucho. Y él escribe mucho en su Akdamel Nekudot HaKesef que todo lo que hizo de Shem Shamayim y ninguna intención de Hasbe Shalom Livgó en el cabot del Taz fue lo que hizo y quiere decir que donde estamos también el Taz estuvo acá cuando vino a visitar también fue el Shach.
The amount of effort the Shach put in to write his Sefer is lo yu'uman ki yisupar. The Shach says, nobody should question me that I said something and you don't understand it, because the amount of amelut that I put into writing this commentary is, I didn't review it once, I didn't review it twice, I didn't review it many times. Before I wrote anything, I reviewed my learning 101 times, and only then did I compose it. How could the Shach do this? Chida brings down that he has a tradition that the Shach knew a special Shem Hashem, that when he would invoke this name of God, he would be able to have the bikiyut, to access it quickly, to be able to compose his chidushim. Now the Shach wrote many Sfarim. He also wrote a Sefer Takval Kohen. Takval Kohen are the laws of possession. Do you know how long it took the Shach to write Sefer Takval Kohen? 30 days. This Sefer, which is studied in all the yeshivot, 30 days. In fact, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz wrote a kitzur of the Takval Kohen, amazing commentary of the Shach. The Shach also was a poet. He wrote the Kinot for what happened in 1648, 1649. He wrote a sefer called Megillat Eifa, which is a record of all the terrible pogroms of the Chmielnicki pogroms. I want to tell you a story about the daughter of the Shach. The Shach had a daughter, Esther. You know, you learned it?
We tell you in the bus.
They told it on the bus. Yeah. What's your last name again?
Yaakov Chilu.
Yaakov Chilu told you the whole story. So you got it. The bottom line is that when the Shach later in life came to the city of his future son-in-law, Rabbi Meir, and his daughter revealed herself. So then the new husband was so happy to have this father-in-law, he helped the Shach publish his Perush on Choshen Mishpat. One last story. You'll tell me if you heard this story in Mexico, if it made it to Mexico. In 1648, 1649, the Gezerot Noraot on Klal Yisrael were terrible, and there were 2 great Mikubalim, Rav Shamshin Ramesh Japol and the Shach. And Rav Shamshon Ashtapol made a Sheilat Chalom, how he could be Mavatel the Gezerah. And he was told that if he and the Shach would give up their life al Kiddush Hashem, the Gezerot would stop. Rav Shamshon Ashtapol agreed to give up his life. He came to the Shach, he says, if you will also agree to give up your life, the Gezerot will stop. The Shach says, I need to think about it. He comes back to Rav Shamshon Ashtapol, he said, I will give up my life for Klal Yisrael, but I can't do it yet. I didn't finish writing the Shach.
Wow.
He says, not until I finish writing the Shach can I give up my life. Rav Isser Zalman Meltzer would say over this story, and he would say, even though this would have meant saving the lives of Jews, the fact that we have the Shach on Yor Deah was more important for the future of the Jewish people, even than being Mavatel the Gezerah. So this was the Mesirat Nefesh of the Shach, not to give up his life, to be able to produce for Klal Yisrael the great works of Shach, is a double Rashi Tevot, Sifsei Kohen and Reb Shabsi Katz, Kohen Miyuchas. Today's Lag BaOmer. What's the sphere of Lag BaOmer? Hod Shebahod. Hod Shebahod is the Midah of Aharon HaKohen. Who is the greatest example of Hod Shebahod? The Shach, Kohen Miyuchas LiYisrael. In his chus, we should be zocha. We should all be zocha that the Rebbeinu Shalom should be rodef shalom v'ohev shalom lanu u'chol Yisrael. Amen.
Cosas de lo que dijo sobre el Taz en Nekota Kesef, él dijo lo siguiente, se los comenté ayer, que sepan que antes de escribir una palabra sobre esto no lo pensé una vez, 2 veces, 3 veces, sino 101 veces antes de escribir algo sobre el Taz, que no crean que lo hice mal, lo estuve pensando y lo estuve haciendo, no lo hice una sola vez, y fue lo que escribió mucho antes de que crean de que él estaba haciendo algo mal. La historia de Esther, que ya lo sabemos, lo que dijo el Shach, y también la contra que dijimos, que él dijo que él podría entregar su vida, pero tiene que acabar el pirús del Shach. Sobre esto dice el Rab, que Rabbi Zalman Meltzer dijo, es el suegro de Rabbaron Kotler, que dijo Rabbi Zalman, que dijo, obviamente entregar la vida por Am Israel es algo grandioso y salvar gente, pero ¿qué hubiera hecho Am Israel sin el pirús del Shach hoy en día? ¿Qué seríamos sin el Shach? El Shach entendió eso, y que él, Baruch Hashem, que él, obviamente, repito, difícil hacer la evaluación, pero él entendió lo que era el Shach, y como dice hoy la Baomer, él era Cohen, él es el mejor ejemplo de Aarón a Cohen, Oev Shalom, Rodev Shalom. El Shach también era un poeta, él escribió poemas de dolor, de Kinot, él estuvo en las épocas que les dije de Taj Betar, de los cosacos, y él vio la tzarot de Am Israel y hizo poemas de Kinot, de dolor para lo que estaba sufriendo Am Israel. Es donde ahorita nos encontramos en el Kever del Shach, que es de Jutó y Agen Alenu, y vamos a pedir mucha tefilá en un día especial, Lag BaOmer, hoy Lag BaOmer, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, lo que dijo el Hatam Sofer, no hay mejor evento y día para estar aquí en Kever de un tzaddik tan grande y pedir por él que yekabel kol tefilatenu beratzon.
Amen. And I'm going to translate into English.
Yeah, please.
Okay? Also because we didn't get in the first recording. Again, we said that the Shach was Tzintzenet Haman. Tzintzenet Haman, today, like Reb Chiel said, the man came down for the Jewish people. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was called the jug of the man. And in the merit of standing here, Hashem should send us all the man, spiritual benefit, spiritual shefa, parnasa berevach, v'rak, ach tov v'chesed, yirdefunu, kol yemei chayenu, amen v'amen.
Vamos a nosotros decir ahorita nosotros su parte de Teilim, vamos a acabar el Teilim nosotros.
¿Falta alguien? ¿O falta
Complete the Teilim together.
Wow. We say one Tehillim together?
Yeah, please. Vamos a decir ahorita, Rabbi Glatstein va a decir un Teilim él y vamos a seguir.
In Holishev, the Shach wrote some of the all-time great classic commentaries of Lamdas that are studied in the yeshiva. Aside from the Shach on Yor Deah, the Shach wrote this sefer, Takvay Kohen. Takvay Kohen is one of the classic Lamdisha works that were ever written about the laws of possession. In Sefer Takvay Kohen, by the way, the Shach was nifter before he reached 42 years old. Among other things, the Magen Avram refers to a perush the Shach has an Archaim. So we have what the Shach wrote on Yor Deah, we have what he wrote on Choshen Mishpat, we don't have an Archaim, but he wrote an Archaim as well. There's a fundamental difference between what the Shach wrote on Yor Deah and what he wrote on Choshen Mishpat. On Yor Deah, he wrote it as a commentary on the words of the Mechaber and the Ramah. So aside from his own Chidushim, he's being Meva'er the words of the Mechaber and the Ramah. However, later on in life, when he wrote on Chosh and Mishpat, he did not explain the words of the Mechaber Ramah for a very simple reason. He felt that the commentary of the Sma already accomplished a commentary on the Mechaber Ramah, and now all that was needed was for his own Chidushim. But he wrote this Sefer Takvei Koyin, and in it he brings various laws of Psak about various Rishonim. For example, if Rabbeinu Yerucham quotes Tosfos, he doesn't necessarily refer to our Tosfos, he's referring to Tosfos Harash. Klalim like that. There's another important rule that the Ramah says, this is a very important rule. Remember, the Shach married a descendant of the Ramah. What's the halacha if Achroinim argue on Rishonim? Who do you follow? If Achroinim argue on Rishonim, you follow the Achroinim. They were later, they were the Basroi. But there is an exception to that. That's only if the Achroinim saw the Rishonim. But if you could find a Rishon that the Achroin didn't know about, we're not going to say we follow the Achroin because he's later, because we could say if he would have seen this Rishon, he never would have paskin the way he did. So the question now is, we'll always paskin like the Shach, but we need to know what books the Shach had access to. Because if he didn't have access to certain books, we're not going to paskin like him. So there's a long discussion. Which Rishonim did the Shach see? Which Rishonim did the Shach not see? So for example, Chsam Sofer in Yerodea Siman Reish Nun brings that the Shach did not see the Igeres Hatashbeitz, and therefore we wouldn't necessarily follow the rulings of the Shach under these circumstances. So there's a very lengthy introduction here about the Klolim that the Shach says. What's the difference between what we call Iboy Deloy Efshita and a Teku? There's something in the Gemara has a question, and the Gemara doesn't come out with a definitive answer, and sometimes the Gemara will say Teku. So these are issues that the Shach wrote about. Takvei Kohen, the Shach wrote B'chodesh Echad, in 1 month. This great work, one of the great classics of all time, that it could take a lifetime to write, the Shach wrote in 30 days. Zechusa Yagin Aleinu, Amen. Okay, it's a great zchus to be here at the shul of the Machzas HaShekel, Reb Shmuel Halevi Kellen. Somebody, his son writes about him in his drush, Maimer Esther, that he loy pasak pume migirsa the entire day from morning until night, even while he was lying down, even as he was falling asleep. But he likewise excelled in Midas Hanavan. Before he died, he left word that he doesn't want anyone to describe him in the Hesped as a goin, as a rav, as a chassid, as an anav. He just wants a simple stone, nothing written on it, no shvachim. They didn't listen to him. So they took a very exquisite marble and they carved out a very ornate shvachim. That very night, the matzeva broke. It cracked in half, and they saw the Min HaShamayim, the wish of the tzaddik, was being fulfilled. What's amazing is that in 1930, when they redid this Beis HaMedrash, they found in the corner of the shul the broken slab with his name on it, and it was like a moifes that they found the remnant of the original matzeva that they had made for the Machzas HaShekel. Now the Chsam Sofer writes, and this is also brought in the beginning of the Machzas HaShekel on Yerodea, that the Machzas HaShekel was so zahir in Midas HaEmes ad kedei mesiras nefesh. Story goes like this. One day they found the corpse, and they found a knife next to it, and the knife was clearly from the home of the Machzas HaShekel. But of course he didn't do it. So they advised him, listen, you're going to be taken to court, they're going to cross-examine you. Just say it's not your knife. If you say it's your knife, then it's going to be impossible to wiggle out of the situation and say, yeah, it's my knife, but I didn't do it. When it came down to it and they asked him, Rabbi, whose knife is this? He said as follows, Emes Yoira Darkoi. It's my knife, but I didn't do this. Chsam Sofer brings out from here how careful one has to be in the midah of Emes. Ad Kedei Mesiras Nefesh. So we're going to go to his Matzeva. We'll hear more about the life of Reb Shmuel Halevi Kellen, the Baal Machzas HaShekel, Zchusa Yagin Aleinu. Okay. We're here on the top of the mountain in Boskowitz, looking over the city. We're at the kever of the Baal Machzas HaShekel, Marina Rav Shmuel Halevi Kellen, the Baal Machzas HaShekel. Machzas HaShekel, I want to read to you the Lashon of the Chassam Sofer in his drashos. He says, Zakein v'tzadik yoishev v'doiresh kemoisha mipi hagvura alpayim talmidim kishilei zeisim. He was an elderly, venerated sage with thousands of talmidim. Shechina medaberes mitoch groinai. The Almighty spoke out of his throat, like who? As we mentioned in his youth, from his youth, lepasak pume migirsa, from the early morning until late at night. One of his signs of greatness is that people from all over would come to him, give him a name of a chayla, and in all of his tefillos he would daven for others, and his tefillos, his eyes would be dripping with tears for all the chaylim that he davened for. We mentioned his anivos. Now it's a very interesting name of a sefer, Machzas HaShekel. Think about it. You know, if you're writing a book, you don't want to. Would you call it Machzas HaShekel, half a shekel, like what? 50 cents. You know. So in the Hakdama of the Drashas Machzas HaShekel, in the Haskama of his son-in-law, he says that the Machzas HaShekel said that even though he was not mechavin to the MS all the time, he at least got it 50%. At least 50% of the things were correct. And then he said, V'oi tam acher belibi atzura. And he had another hidden reason. Are we even allowed to conjecture, but maybe there's an idea that the word shekel, ba'at bash, there's a system of gematria, at bash, shekel, shin, is
Beis.
Kuf, Daled, Lamed Chaf, Beis Daled Chaf, 26, that's the name of Hashem. To indicate Machzas HaShekel. Hashem's name is not Malay. Maybe it was a tefillah. It was a tefillah that Yehei Shmei Rabbah. It was a tefillah for the fruition of the fullness of Hashem's name. As we know, the Maser Rekech writes that the reason why Rebbe named the Masechta Shkalim, even though we don't give a shekel, we give a Machzas HaShekel, is we're awaiting the day that we're going to give a shekel Shalem. Maybe he called it Machzas HaShekel to indicate like a tefillah that we should be zoicha to be mashlam it. In any event, it's very interesting. It's brought in the biography of the Maram Shik in the name of the Chassam Sofer that the Machzas HaShekel once said to Rav Nosson Adler, you know why I called it Machzas HaShekel? Because by the way, do you know what is the Machzas HaShekel? It's not a parish on Shulchan Aruch, it's a parish on the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram was the most cryptic of all the Mefarshim. One of the reasons is because he was very poor. He actually wrote portions of Magen Avram on the walls of his home. He could not afford paper. So the Machzas HaShekel told Rav Nosson Adler, I don't understand the Nistar of the Magen Avram, but Benigla, I understand it halfway. Whereupon Rav Nosson Adler said, I understand Nistar. I could only understand 1/3 of what the Magen Avram says, Benistar. In his great humility, he did not publish his Sfarim in his lifetime. They came out, the Machzas HaShekel on the Shach Yoredeya, Hilchos Nida. These were all published posthumously. This is someone who was mispalel b'demoi shalish for cholim and for netzrachim. So mistama, this makom is particularly mesugol to have our tefillos answered. Okay, good afternoon everyone. We're headed to Nikolsburg, to the kever of Rav Shmuel Shmalka of Nikolsburg and Rav Mordechai Benet. I would like to share with you perhaps the most stirring story that you'll hear on the whole trip, and this will give you an understanding of where Rav Mordechai Benet is buried. And it's an amazing controversy, a very stirring controversy, and something very mysterious. Rav Mordechai Benet lived from 1753 to 1829. He was the acclaimed Gadol Hadar. However, when he died, he could not be buried in Nikolsburg. He had to be buried in Liechtenstadt. And here's how it all happened. When Rav Mordechai Benet was 60 years old, Rav Mordechai suffered from severe ailments. They grew steadily worse. And then finally in the year 1829, Rav Mordechai Benet passed away at 75 years old. Rav Mordechai, in his final year, was sitting secluded in a chamber, a cheder within a cheder, learning the Kabbalah, learning the secrets of the Torah. And his illness begins to overcome him, and the doctors say, Rav Mordechai, you need to go to Carlsbad. You know what Carlsbad is? Carlsbad is the mineral baths. So They warn him, if you don't go to Carlsbad, you're forfeiting your life. Damecha b'roishecha. So Mordechai ben Ed goes to Carlsbad. It's the middle of Tammuz, to drink the Mayim Chayim of Carlsbad. However, the accursed waters of the mineral baths enter his body. They cause him to suffer terrible cramps in the abdomen. They weaken his arteries, his ligaments, and he suffers for 17 days. The doctors try to cure him, but on Wednesday, the 13th of Av, he was nifter on the yahrzeit of Megal Amukos. He dies in Carlsbad. What are they going to do with him? So the city of Nikolsburg sends word, he's our Rav. He needs to be buried in Nikolsburg. But the law of the land was, if you're going to move him to a far distance, he has to be embalmed. They don't know what to do. Should they bury him in Carlsbad? It's not even a Jewish city. So they decide they're going to bury him in Liechtenstadt, which was only a 2-hour away journey. And that's what they do. They bury him in Liechtenstadt. Meanwhile, the city of Nikolsburg is up in arms. Liechtenstadt, that's not his city. Liechtenstadt says there's a halacha. Wherever you bury a mace, the earth is kind of him. The city is kind of him. He is now ours. Reb Mordechai ben Ed belongs to us. Nikolsburg said, what do you mean? He was our Rav. He even left in his tzava that at the very least, that he would like to be buried in Nikolsburg, and if not Nikolsburg, at least the city of Prague. And this shaila of what to do with the holy guf of Reb Mordechai ben Ed was brought to none other than the Chassam Sofer. And you could look in the Tshuvas Chassam Sofer, Chilek Vav, Siman Lamed Zayin. By the way, now we know it was also brought to 2 other Gedolim. It was brought to Rabbi Kiva Eger. It was also brought to Rabbi Shmuel Landau, the son of the Rabbi Yehuda. And very unusually, the Chassam Sofer writes that he's inclined to say that you can move him, but he stops short of definitively saying that he could be moved. So when the city of Nikolsburg hears that the Chassam Sofer sort of was not definitive, so they back off and they let it be. 7 months, and according to some 6 months pass, and all of a sudden the Chassam Sofer revisits the case, and now finally he writes definitively to Nikolsburg that he has decided that they should move his body, and this is his decision definitively, and they bring him to Kvura on the 12th of Adar in the year Tov Kuf Tzadik 1830 in the city of Nikolsburg. And it was always a mystery. The Chassam Sofer never hemmed, never ha. The Chassam Sofer always gave a definitive psak. In fact, the Chassam Sofer would say that he didn't need to bring rayas to his psak. Whatever his psak was, that is what they agreed to in the Shemayim. He doesn't need rayas. Whatever he says, in fact, the Chassam Sofer says only 2 times he ever retracted a psak. And both times that he retracted his psak, he was wrong. He got it right the first time. So why was the Chassam Sofer unsure, so to speak, of the psak over here? So there's a sefer, Maroim Harim, and he brings the testimony of Reb Shimon Sofer, the son of the Chassam Sofer, that the Chassam Sofer was in the middle of writing the tshuva to allow to paskin that they should move Reb Mordechai ben Ed to Nikolsburg. However, as he's completing writing the tshuva, suddenly the Chassam Sofer is overtaken with sleep, and he has a dream, and none other than Reb Mordechai ben Ed reveals himself in a dream to the Chassam Sofer. And Reb Mordechai ben Ed says, let me explain to you why I'm buried here in Liechtenstadt. You see, many years ago I issued a psak to allow an engagement to be broken. And because I caused tsar to this lady to allow her engagement to be broken, I am punished min hashamayim to be buried next to this girl who I allowed her engagement to be broken. And the proof is, says Reb Mordechai ben Ed, go take a look. In Liechtenstadt, I am buried next to the girl whose engagement I paskin could be broken. However, there's another version of the story. That Reb Mordechai ben Ed revealed himself to the Chassam Sofer and says, I was engaged to this lady, the Rebbetzin of Liechtenstadt. We were engaged for 7 months, and then I broke the engagement. And as a punishment for breaking the engagement, min hashamayim, I needed to be buried next to her for 7 months. go and check and verify who I'm buried next to. But now the 7 months, now the 7 months are over. Now you could move me. And the Chassam Sofer, in fact, paskined that he could be moved. By the way, when the residents of Nikolsburg went to move the Reb Mordechai Bennett, the residents of Liechtenstein did not let these emissaries come in. They hired hooligans, they hired a mob. It became a very great controversy. Finally, they had to get military protection to move the holy body of Reb Mordechai Bennett, who was finally moved on the 12th day and buried on the 12th day of Adar, 7 months later in the year 1830. So this is the story of how Reb Mordechai Bennett was finally moved from the city of Liechtenstein to Nikolsburg. So Reb Mordechai Bennett, he passes in Carlsbad. He's first buried in Liechtenstein, and finally he's buried in this city that we're headed to, in Nikolsburg. Utehei menuchasai kavod. Okay, we're headed to the Kever Reb Mordechai Bennett, Rav Shmuel Shmuck of Nikolsburg. Here's a sign that tells us after this long trek to go up here. So we're here, we're in the Czech Republic, we're in Mykolaiv, we're in Nikolsburg. The Rebbe Reb Shmelka, the renowned Rebbe Reb Shmelka, Poinitman Harav Hamadina, Varav Av Bezdin, the Kilosenu Hagoin HaChosed Hashem HaMeforsim B'Chasidus. Now we're talking about Meforsim B'Chasidus. This is very important to understand. The Rebbe of Shmelka was one of the earliest promulgators of the ideology of Chasidus. He was a Talmud of the Maggid. However, he didn't start off as a Talmud of the Maggid. He started off in Vilna by the Vilna Gaon. And through the influence of early Hasidim, he became a Talmud of the Maggid. And he is responsible for spreading Chasidus not only here, but throughout Poland. However, he didn't fully endorse some of the views of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. He took Chasidus and combined it to a certain extent with in-depth learning. And Polish Chasidus was deeply influenced by, we'll call it, this revolutionized type of Chasidus that was brought by the Rebbe of Shmelka. So that's why you find Gedolim like Rav Yosef Shal Halevi Natanzan say about the Rebbe of Shmelka, Aveisenu Sipru Lanu, his great Kedusha, his Precious, his Gevura, his Toikef, and he was a great tzaddik. He afflicted himself in fasting and in tefillah. He was very close with his brother, the Hafla, Reb Pinchas Halevi Horowitz. Their father was Reb Tzvi Hersh Horowitz, and the story goes that one year Shavuos was coming, and the father says, Shavuos is coming, what Masechta do you think we should learn? So the Rebbe of Shmelka said, we should learn Shavuos. Shavuos is coming, we should learn Masechta Shavuos. So the Tata said, Masechta Shavuos is about oaths. So Rav Shmuel said, I know, but Tata, you taught us that we're mushba v'oimed me Har Sinai, that Har Sinai we took an oath to keep the Torah. We have to know the binding nature of an oath. The next year, again, Shavuos was coming, and he asked his other son, the Hafla, which Masechta we should learn, and the Hafla said we should learn two Masechtas, Ksubis and Kedushin, because when Hashem gave us the Torah, He married us, so to speak. Okay, the Rebbe of Shmelka, we have a sefer from him, Shemen HaTov. There he writes that the Medrash tells us it's not good to start with the word af. Anyone who started with an af had a very bad downfall. Like who? The Sar HaOifim. Af b'chaloimi. Or Haman. Haman said, af lo hivia Esther. Or Kairach. Af el eretz. Whoever starts with the word anger, he's done. So Frek the Rebbe of Shmelka, Masechta Ksubis, the 5th parak, begins af al pi. How could you begin a parak with af? Says the Rebbe of Shmelka, an amazing thing. How many prakim are in Ksubais? 13 prakim. Why are there 13 prakim? Keneged the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim. Because Masechta Ksubis is the Kleina Shas, is Shas Katan. Therefore it encompasses all 13 Midas Harachamim. The 5th of the Midas Harachamim, Kael, Racham, V'chanon, Erech, Apayim, anger. So Keneged Apayim is Afalpi. If you have a problem with Kas, you should learn the 5th parak of Ksubis. Therefore the 5th parak of Ksubis begins with the word Af. He was born in 1726. He was nifter in 1778. How many years did he live? 52 years. He would always tell people he had the neshama of Shmuel. He had the neshama of Shmuel. In fact, on his deathbed, he told his Talmidim, my neshama is the neshama of Shmuel. Here's the siman. We have the same name. Shmuel was a Levi, I'm a Levi. Shmuel lived 52 years, I live 52 years. The only difference is he was Shmuel and I'm just Shmelka. That's the words of the Rebbe of Shmelka. In the Chuvas Marsham Chelik Beis, he brings from the Rebbe of Shmelka that anyone who doesn't have kavana by Ahava Rabbah or Atachoinen cannot be mechadesh anything in Torah. It's not possible to have chidushim unless you're mechavein by these two brachos, said the Rebbe Shmelka. When he was accepted here in Nikolsburg in the year 1773, 5 years before his Petira, so he was preparing to greet the people, and they caught him in his room saying, Shalom Alechem, Gadol Hadar, Rashka Bahag, Tzadik Mefursam, Tzadik Yisod Olam. A little bit strange that he'd be saying these things to him. So they asked, Rebbe, what exactly are you doing? He says in Pirkei Avos, it says, Yehei kavod chavercha chaviv alecha kishalach. What does that mean? It means like this. You know how you should treat kavod? Imagine if you were mechabed yourself. Imagine if the kavod you were receiving didn't come from anyone, you were telling that to yourself. Would you get kavod from that? No. You would need therapy if you actually thought that was kavod. If you're the one being mechabed yourself, everybody understands it's empty. That you're saying, when somebody else gives you kavod, you should think of it as if you yourself are giving yourself kavod. So I'm practicing that when people say this to me, it's ki'ilu, I'm saying it to myself. Just like if I would say it to myself, I would understand that it's meaningless. That's how I view when other people, Yehei kavod chavercha chav alecha kishalach. This is the ideology of the Rebbe of Shmelka. Reb Chaim Sanzer said, Moifes Hadar, Ish Elokim, Asbaklar Yehameira, Rabban Shel Kol Hagoyla. And we have the Lashon of the Noam Megadim, Rabban Va'oron Shel Yisrael, Nasi Halavim Zechusai, Yagin Aleinu. It's a great zechus to be here in Nikolsburg in Mikolav at the kever of three all-time great tzaddikim. We're going to begin. Nitman Poi Rav Hamadina, Nishmasai Tinuach Tei Kanfei Ashchina, Marin Rav Menachem Mendel. This is the Tzemach Tzedek. So you say the Tzemach Tzedek. That sounds somewhat familiar. This is what we call the Tzemach Tzedek Harishain. The Tzemach Tzedek Harishain. He was a student of the Bach, not to be confused with the Baal HaTanya. He's actually so early, he's quoted by the Magen Avram. Magen Avram brings that there's an inyan to eat fish by 3 Sudos on Shabbos. Friday night, Shabbos day, and Shalosh Sudos. There's an inyan, there are many reasons for that. However, the Tzemach Tzedek gives a psak that if the fishermen jack up the prices, then you don't have to keep this halacha. You don't have to be abused financially to be mekayim this inyan. In other words, it's better to keep the economics of the city feasible for people and to abandon this custom. This is a famous psak of the Tzemach Tzedek, quoted by the Magen Avram. Now he's buried right next to him is the Rebbe of Shmelka. Legend has it that Tzemach Tzedek said that for 100 years he doesn't want nobody could be buried next to him. And sure enough, 100 years later exactly, the next great personality of Nikolsburg was buried right here, Sham Tehei Makam Menuchasai. Okay. Right. So we're here, we're in the Czech Republic, we're in Mikolav, we're in Nikolsburg. The Rebbe Reb Shmelka, the renowned Rebbe Reb Shmelka, Poinitman Harav Hamadina, Varav Av Bezdin, the Kilasenu Hagoin HaChosed Hashem HaMefursam B'Chasidus. Now we're talking about Mefursam B'Chasidus. This is very important to understand. The Rebbe Reb Shmelka was one of the earliest promulgators of the ideology of Chasidus. He was a Talmud of the Maggid. However, he didn't start off as a Talmud of the Maggid. He started off in Vilna by the Vilna Gaon. And through the influence of early Hasidim, he became a Talmud of the Maggid. And he is responsible for spreading Chasidus not only here, but throughout Poland. However, he didn't fully endorse some of the views of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. He took Chasidus and combined it to a certain extent with in-depth learning. And Polish Chasidus was deeply influenced by, we'll call it, this revolutionized type of Chasidus that was brought by the Rebbe of Shmelka. So that's why you find Gedolim, like Rav Yosef Shal Halevi Natanzan say about the Rebbe of Shmelka, Avesenu Siprulanu, his great Kedusha, his Precious, his Gevura, his Toikef, and he was a great tzaddik. He afflicted himself in fasting and in tefillah. He was very close with his brother, the Hafla, Reb Pinchas Halevi Horowitz. Their father was Reb Tzvi Hersh Horowitz. And the story goes that one year Shavuos was coming, and the father says, Shavuos is coming, what Masechta do you think we should learn? So the Rebbe of Shmelka said, we should learn Shavuos. Shavuos is coming, we should learn Masechta Shavuos. So the Tata said, Masechta Shavuos is about oaths. So Rabbi Shmuel said, I know, but Tata, you taught us that we're mushba v'oimed me Har Sinai, that Har Sinai we took an oath to keep the Torah. We have to know the binding nature of an oath. The next year, again, Shavuos was coming, and he asked his other son, the Hafla, which Masechta we should learn, and the Hafla said we should learn two Masechtas, Ksubis and Kedushin, because when Hashem gave us the Torah, He married us, so to speak. Okay, the Rebbe of Shmelka, we have a sefer from him, Shemen HaTov. There he writes that the Medrash tells us it's not good to start with the word af. Anyone who started with an af had a very bad downfall. Like who? The Sar HaOifim. Af b'chaloimi. Or Haman. Haman said, Af lo hivia Esther. Or Kairach. Af el eretz. Whoever starts with the word anger, he's done. So, Frek the Rebbe of Shmelka, Masechta Ksubis, the 5th parak, begins Af al pi. How could you begin a parak with Af? Says the Rebbe of Shmelka, an amazing thing. How many prakim are in Ksubais? 13 prakim. Why are there 13 prakim? Keneged the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim. Because Masechta Ksubis is the Kleina Shas, is Shas Katan. Therefore it encompasses all 13 Midas Harachamim. The 5th of the Midas Harachamim, Kael, Racham, B'chanon, Erech, Apayim, anger. So Keneged Apayim is Afalpi. If you have a problem with Kas, you should learn the 5th parak of Ksubis. Therefore the 5th parak of Ksubis begins with the word Af. He was born in 1726. He was nifter in 1778. How many years did he live? 52 years. He would always tell people he had the neshama of Shmuel. He had the neshama of Shmuel. In fact, on his deathbed, he told his Talmidim, my neshama is the neshama of Shmuel. Here's the siman. We have the same name. Shmuel was a Levi, I'm a Levi. Shmuel lived 52 years, I live 52 years. The only difference is he was Shmuel and I'm just Shmelka. That's the words of the Rebbe of Shmelka. In the Tshuvas Marsham Chelik Beis, he brings from the Rebbe of Shmelka that anyone who doesn't have kavana by Ahava Rabbah or Atachoinen cannot be mechadesh anything in Torah. It's not possible to have chidushim unless you're mechavein by these two brachos, said the Rebbe Shmelka. When he was accepted here in Nikolsburg in the year 1773, 5 years before his Petira, so he was preparing to greet the people, and they caught him in his room saying, Shalom Aleichem, Gadol Hador, Rashka Bahag, Tzadik Mefursam, Tzadik Yisod Olam. A little bit strange that he'd be saying these things to him. So they asked, Rebbe, what exactly are you doing? He says in Pirkei Avos, it says, Yehei kavoid chavercha chaviv alecha kishalach. What does that mean? It means like this. You know how you should treat kavod? Imagine if you were mechabed yourself. Imagine if the kavod you were receiving didn't come from anyone, you were telling that to yourself. Would you get kavod from that? No. You would need therapy if you actually thought that was kavod. If you're the one being mechabed yourself, everybody understands it's empty. That you're saying, when somebody else gives you kavod, you should think of it as if you yourself are giving yourself kavod. So I'm practicing that when people say this to me, it's ki'ilu, I'm saying it to myself. Just like if I would say it to myself, I would understand that it's meaningless. That's how I view when other people, Yehei kavod chavercha chavalecha kishalach. This is the ideology of the Rebbe of Shmelka. Reb Chaim Sanzer said, Moifes Hadar, Ish Elokim, Asbaklari HaMeira, Rabban Shel Kol HaGoyla. And we have the Lashon of the Noam Megadim, Rabban Va'oron Shel Yisrael, Nasi Halavim Zechusai, Yagin Aleinu. It's great zchus to be at the kever of Rav Mordechai Bennett, Maharam Bennett, 1753 to 1829. This is what he looked like. This is a picture of Rav Mordechai Bennett. Rav Mordechai Bennett. Marcus Benedict, Rav Mordechai Benet. This is the picture the Rabbi Yehuda says about him: Ahuvi v'yedidi chavivi harav hamar hagadol hagoin hamuflag hamushlan. Chassam Sofer says, More dekule Talmuda lahiniach davar gadol v'davar katan ben yachid l'shchintra kadisha. He was like the Rebbeinu Shalom's only son. I want to tell you an amazing Dvar Torah from Rav Mordechai Benet. We know there's a minhag on Shavuos. We bring trees to the Beis HaKnesses. There's a big question about that. Where does this come from? Is it even permitted? Rav Mordechai Benet says very simple. Make a simple cheshbon. Moshe Rabbeinu was born on what day? Zayin Adar. What did his mother do with him on Zayin Adar? Vatitzbenai shloisha yirachim. At 3 months, what did she then do with him? Put him in the Sea of Reeds. What day was that? Let's make a cheshbon. 3 months later. Vav Sivan. Shavuos. Says Mordechai Benet, why was Moshe protected on that day? Because that was the day he was used to give the Torah to Klal Yisrael. And what protected him? The suf, the reeds, the tree. So we plant the tree, we bring the tree into the shul to show that we're zoicha to the Torah in the Zchus of Moshe Rabbeinu, that he was hidden on that day 3 months after his birth. It's the second day of Rosh Hashanah here in Nikolsburg, and the Yoresh Ha'atzar. What's the Yoresh Ha'atzar? The crown prince is coming to visit, and they need to be prepared. And he's coming. Meanwhile, they're waiting to daven, and the hour is getting late. And if they don't daven now, they're going to miss the tefillah. Rav Mordechai Benet says we have to daven. So they start the Shemona Esrei, and just then the crown prince comes in, and Rav Mordechai Benet, he's davening, he's weeping, he's crying, and the crown prince is sitting there, he's standing there, he's waiting, he's furious. And after Rav Mordechai Benet finishes the tefillah, he greets the crown prince, he speaks to him divrei tanchumim, he calms him down, he makes the bracha shachalak mikvoidoi lebasav adam, and the crown prince said, never in his life did he ever see anyone pray this way. Shortly after, there was an assassination attempt against the crown prince, and his life was saved, and the crown prince attributed it to the bracha of Rav Mordechai Benet. Now, Rav Mordechai Benet wrote a sefer, Biur Mordechai, Magen Avos on the Lamites Malachos, Har Hamar, Parashas Mordechai, Techelas Mordechai. The Rav Mordechai Benet would daven from the Siddur Hashla. In the Siddur Hashla Rav Mordechai Benet, there was an inscription with his personal handwriting. He would write, Harini Noider Lashem Alekei Tzavakos. I make a neder. Levilti ahanem mehanas oilam hazai, will not take pleasure from this world. Zulas mashu letzorach gadol, unless it's really needed. Letoyeles brios gufi, needed for my own personal health. We mentioned the story of when Rav Mordechai Benet was nifter in where? Carlsbad. What day? Yud Gimel Av. He's brought 2 hours later to Liechtenstein, and ultimately he's buried here in Nikolsburg on Yud Beis Adar Tehei Nishmas Tzarbus Harachayim. All of our tefillah should be niskabel, barachamim of Ratzain.